Now. All right. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me on this live. And this afternoon, what we want to just look at today is to understand how our birth order affects your relationship mindset. You know, our mindset as human beings are affected by um, our birth, the people who gave birth to us, the family in which we grew up in, our mindset about life, about love, about relationship is affected by the environment in which we grew up in, and also the emotional life experiences that we have gone through, especially negative life experiences. So these are the factors that shape our mindset about life. And relationship is beautiful, but building relationship requires work. And what kind of work? The work you do in relationship as it concerns the factors that affect your mindset. Because if you don't do this work, your relationship is not likely to flourish the way you want it to. Your position in the family as the firstborn, a middle child, or a lastborn, or an only child shapes the way you think, the way you communicate with other people, and the way you even navigate life, and the way you navigate your relationships. Many people don't realize how much their birth order influences the expectations, conflict styles, and emotional needs in a relationship. For a long time, I was unaware, I was blissfully unaware of the impact of my birth order on my relationship, the impact of my birth order on the way I do life, the impact of my birth order on the way I do even conflicts, conflict and conflict relationship. Our birth order affects it, and because our birth order affects our mindset about life, love, and relationship generally, it's important that we learn what the impact of our birth order has on our mindset. It's very, very important. If you're married, if you're single, it's important that you know the impact of your birth order on your life, the impact of your birth order even the platonic relationships that you have, not to even talk about the romantic relationships. So it affects us in ways that we are unaware of, that we are unconscious of it. But if you want to do life with another person and be successful at it, we need to learn the impact. We need to make ourselves become aware of the impact that our birth order have even upon our lives. It's very, very important. Our birth order affects our relationship mindset. You may understand it, you may not understand it, but this afternoon we have come together so that we become more aware, so that we have a more robust understanding of the effect of our birth order on our relationship. Why is it so important? Why is my birth order and the order at which I arrive in my family important? It's important because family is the first place where we learn how to do life with other people. Family is the first place where we learn what love meant, where we learn what it means to have conflicts and resolve it. Family is the first place where we learn how to skills about about trust, betrayal, forgiveness, fairness. It's in the family setting that we learn all these things. Yes, we pick up a lot of these things even unconsciously. But in learning anything about life at all, we learn it in our family. That is our first school about marriage, our first school about love, our first school about relationship. And most of the time, whatever you pick up subconsciously, even from your family, have such an impact and effect on you that you are not aware of it. So much so that a lot of us will say, I will not be like my father, or I will not be like my mother. But because you are not conscious of the things you have picked up from their lives so much, you end up becoming like them unless you do something about it, unless you are intentional about not becoming like them and picking a path that is different from theirs. So, like I said, factors that influence our perception about life, marriage, love, family are all bringing. The family, our caretakers, our handlers, the aunties we grew up in their homes, the parents we grew up with. Some of us did not actually grow up with our natural parents. Some of us grew up with our aunts. Some of us, we were given to distant cousins to live with. Whoever it was that you lived with in those formative years of your life, they serve as the people that brought you up. Those are the people that teach you essentially what a relationship is, what love is, what life is all about. Another factor that influences our perception about love, life, and marriage is the environment in which we grew up. Some of us grew up in environments that look down on having a good marriage. When people have good marriages in some environments, they sneer at them. Are they the only ones? Look at the way they're doing. Or when an environment where it was normal to see husband and wives shouting or beating one another, running out of the house almost naked. That's an environment. It's an environment that taught you what love, life, and relationship is about. And if you are not careful, those things, if you are not deliberate, those things will impact your life by the time you begin to do life with another person. The third factor that has an impact upon our perception about life and love is the significant emotional experiences that we have had in our lives while growing up. We have gone through so many emotional, experiences as children, and then while growing up before we became adults. So all these emotional experiences have an impact on who we are now. And then you can imagine when you pick a mate, when you pick a husband or a wife and you're married, this other partner is also coming from a background that is different from yours most of the time, completely different from yours. Sometimes it's even opposite of what you experienced as a child. So you have yourself being impacted by your environment, by the people that brought you up, and by your experiences in life. And then you have your partner who also has been brought up by a family and has been thus impacted by that family, who has been brought up in an environment and also has had a set of life experiences that is different from yours. And so no wonder when we come together and then we have conflict. Conflicts are normal, conflicts are natural, conflicts in themselves are not bad. When we are together as husband and wife and we have conflicts, it merely shows us that there's still space that we need to align. There are still things in our lives that we need to align. That is what conflict is telling us. And if we take it in good faith and we begin to look at what is this conflict telling us, you are likely to solve that conflict faster than letting it fester and giving it negative interpretations. So today, essentially, we are looking at the birth order factor and its effect on our lives, its effect on our relationships. You will wonder, what has the birth order factor got to do with my life? But it has a lot to do with your relationship. It has a lot to do with the way you do life right now. You did not choose when you were born into your family. However, the position, the time you came into the family, your position in that family influenced your life in ways you need to be aware of, because it can impact your marriage. You need to be aware of it so that you will not keep sabotaging your relationship. You need to be aware of the impact of your birth order on you and on your partner. It is very, very important. So this finding out about your birth order and its impact on your life is not only for you as an individual, but also for your partner. Both of you have to be aware of the impact of your birth order, even on your lives. It is this awareness that will open the eyes of both of you to be able to do the work of aligning your lives as a couple. So today, we're going to look at the firstborn, the firstborn, the middleborn, the lastborn, and the only child. Those positions, their impact on your life as an individual, and then the impact on your relationship with your significant other. Even the impact on your platonic relationships. It has an impact, And so we're going to look at it so that you become more aware and then you do something about it. You use the information, you use the knowledge to better your relationship. Now, as a firstborn, that is when we're going to start looking at the position you arrive in your family. We're looking at the impact of the time you arrive in your family, the impact of it, the order in which you arrive in your family, the impact of it on how you do life, on how you do marriage. It's very important that you get to know about it. Marriage is not just something that you just coming together in marriage takes a lot of hard work, and this is one of the hard work you've got to do, because this is one of the factors that affect your mindset. And if you are to come together in marriage and build that team-centered mindset that will give you a successful marriage that you desire, then this is a factor that you have to learn about, that you have to know its impact both in your life and in the life of your partner. So we're going to start by looking at the tendencies of a firstborn. Like I said when I started this talk, for a long time, I was unaware of the fact that the time of my arrival, the order in which I arrived in my family of birth, was impacting my marriage in a negative way. And until I came to that awareness and actually did something about it, of course, nothing changed. So it is very, very important for us to learn this today. And I hope that you'll follow along and learn what affects you, and then see how you can use that information, that knowledge, to get your relationships to become better. All right. So, the firstborn, that's the first one we're going to look at. The firstborn child, male or female, tend to be independent. The firstborn child is usually the child that the parents, is usually the child that the parents used to learn how to be parents, essentially. So being the first child tends to be quite independent. The first child is usually a child that grows up with good leadership skills. A firstborn child can be highly responsible or resentful. The pendulum can swing either way. Can be highly responsible because the first child, a first child of 6, a first child of 5 is usually the one that is responsible for everything that goes wrong in the family, in the house. The parents usually take the first child to be the scapegoat for the younger ones. The first child so tends to be highly responsible. And then probably deep down in the heart, in the mind of that first child, he or she could also be resentful of the fact that I'm held responsible for everything that goes wrong in the house. My junior ones get away with so many things that I dare not do. And that is the lot of the first child. A firstborn child can also be controlling. Why? Because the firstborn child has control of the junior ones. And so he's in charge. The firstborn child is in charge. So the child can be controlling. Tells the second child, tells the third, the fourth, the fifth, sit down there. Tell them, go and do this. And they have no choice. They've got to do it. I remember when I was growing up, being a firstborn daughter myself, the first child, the firstborn daughter myself, I was in charge, as I was growing up. Of course, when I was younger, when I was still a little child, I had to take responsibility for so many things while growing up. And then as I became an adult, a teenager, and then transiting to a young adult, I was controlling. How did I know I was controlling? Those days when television station used to start at 4:30, I think, I was in charge. If I'm not watching a particular station or a particular program that I'm watching, that is what everybody has to watch. And so you can see that a firstborn child can be controlling. You can look at yourself. If you're a firstborn child, are you controlling? A firstborn child can be prone to anxiety, can be anxious, because the child has to be responsible. So the child has anxiety. Am I doing this right? When my parents come, will they praise me for this? So there's anxiety in the heart of a firstborn child. A firstborn child also craves approval and attention. A lot of times, the attention that a firstborn child has is usually negative from the parents and from the carers. Why? Because the firstborn child is expected to be responsible. So if something goes wrong, that firstborn child is called to question. So most of the time, the approval and the attention that the firstborn child craves is usually not given in a positive manner. So a firstborn child craves approval and attention. And this will now be seen as an adult. The firstborn child in relationship as a wife or as a husband craves approval from the partner and attention from the partner. And if this approval is not positive, if this attention is not positive, such a child is not usually happy. Such an adult in that relationship will not be happy, So as a firstborn child, another thing that is characteristic of a firstborn child is they care for others. They like to care for others. It's just their life. They are responsible. They are highly responsible. They are responsible for the junior ones. So the care of others is usually falls on their shoulders. A junior one is ill or sick. They are the ones that will take care of that child. The mother is going to the hospital with another child. Then they have to take care of the little one. And probably sometimes when the parents are ill, they are also in charge. So you find out that a firstborn child has this tendency to be independent, to be a leader, to be controlling, prone to anxiety, craves approval, and like to care for others. As a firstborn child, you may have to learn the language and attitude that will not emasculate your husband or your wife. As a firstborn child who wants a successful relationship, you may have to learn how to blend all these things that is in your life, all these characteristics in your life, with that of your partner. Because evidently your partner might not be a firstborn child, or might be a middle child, or might be an only child. So whatever your partner falls into, you have to learn how to use these characteristics to learn the language and the attitude that will best suit your partner, so that you will not be clashing all the time. The next position in the family that we're going to look at is the middle born. The middle born child is diplomatic, is a peacemaker. If you are a first daughter, not necessarily even a firstborn child. If you are a first daughter, especially in Africa, a lot of times a firstborn child is usually groomed as if she's a firstborn child. So she might have she might have a lot of the characteristics even of a firstborn child. But a middle-born child, that is any child born after the firstborn, is usually diplomatic, is usually the peacemaker. And why is this so? Because the child is in the middle of an elder brother or sister and a junior brother or sister. And he or she has to learn to be diplomatic and to be a peacemaker if she also wants peace for herself. So he or she learns how to be a peacemaker, makes peace between the parents and the senior elder brother or sister, makes peace between the junior ones and the elder ones, because he or she falls in the middle. So he or she lives a life of constantly maintaining the peace. So if you have somebody around you who is a peacemaker, somebody around you who is diplomatic, who doesn't want to offend the right and the left, if you try to find out their order in their family, you are likely to find out that this person is a middle-born child. So the child is used to making peace. The child is good at making compromise, even when it is not in their own interest. They people please. They want to just please everybody. They just want peace. When somebody is telling you, look, I don't want wahala. I just want everybody to be at peace with everybody else. These are people who are most of the time middle-born children. So they are prone to feeling insecure when they become adults and they're in relationships. They are prone to feeling insecure, and they require constant reassurance. Constant reassurance. When you find a middle-born husband or a middle-born wife, they are the ones that will constantly ask you, do you love me? They want you to reassure them, tell them that you love them, because they are not sure. They are in the middle. They are not sure of even the affection of the parents to them. Middle-born children always think that the parents love their elders better, or the parents love their junior ones better. So they have this feeling of insecurity, and they require of you, if you are married to a middle-born child, that you make them feel belonging, you reassure them constantly of your love for them. Middle children may feel neglected because they are making peace between the elders and the junior. And the people please, so they need your reassurance all the time. They need your reassurance. That is, we have looked at the firstborn child, we have looked at the middle-born child, their tendencies, the impact of those tendencies on their relationships. Now we're going to look at the last born child. Some of you are already smiling because some of you are last born children, so you are smiling at that. Last born children may have unconscious entitlement mentality. Last born children. You know, last born children are the babies of the house, especially when that last born have like 5 or 6 people ahead of him or her. So it means that that child has like 6 people apart from the parents who are taking care of his needs. So they grow up a lot of times with an unconscious entitlement mentality. And they can be stubborn, you know, they can have their way. They always talk about having their way. They want their way. Whatever they want, the elder ones want to please them. Last born children, they are also used to having their way. They are used to being doted upon. And you can look at it in the light of a relationship. When last born children are in relationship, they just take it like it's normal that they should be waited hands and foot on. You know, you should serve them. They want to be served. They want you to take care of them. And last born children may struggle with self-discipline. You know, they might not, their attention span might be short. They might not be self-disciplined. They do this, they dabble into 1 or 2 things without having a concrete direction they want to go in life if they are not careful. So it will take very intentional way of life for a last born child to be self-disciplined. Usually the last born children are more adventurous than all their senior ones. You know, they are fun-loving, attention-seeking, and they like to be cared for. And they are prone to parents and older siblings' unhealthy interference even when they are adults. Unhealthy interference by parents and their elder siblings in their work, unhealthy interference even in their love lives. We have a situation of last borns that the parents will insist that the last born cannot marry a particular person. And because the person is a last born, and like I said, it could be prone to being stubborn, may insist that that is the person he or she wants to marry, and then the parents or the elder ones can easily threaten such a child, being the last born. So these are characteristics that a last born will have while growing up. And then you can now look at it in the light of relationship. So in relationship, the last born will want all these things to be done for him or for her. Now, if you are unconscious of all these characteristics in yourself as a firstborn, as a middleborn, or as a lastborn, if you are unaware, you are living blissfully unaware, it is likely to sabotage your relationship with your significant other, with the person you have chosen to do life with, because they also have a birth order in their family. And the impact of their own birth order too has to be taken into consideration when you are in relationship with one another. The last birth order that we're going to look at is an only child. The characteristics of an only child can be similar to a firstborn child with some extras. You know, an only child does not have a sibling, does not have a senior sibling, does not have a junior sibling. So it's as good as having the parents as his siblings. So the parents will pander to the needs and the wants of this only child most of the time. So a lot of times the only child is a mixture of characters from a first child and characteristics from a last child. If an only child can be extremely sensitive and can feel lonely, That's the only child in the house. No other person, no playmate within the house. Yes, such a child can have a playmate maybe at the school, at the creche, at the school, primary, secondary, but it's not the same feel as having a sibling that you can call your own family. So a lot of times, a first child can be, an only child, pardon me, can be sensitive. An only child can feel very, very lonely. And then this loneliness, to make up for it, the parents are hovering around the first child, attending to whatever he or she might need. So a first child, an only child, can also feel lonely. Like I said, the only child is alone, so there's nobody else to play with, there's nobody to fight with, there's nobody to have childish talk with. So the only child can feel lonely. Now, like I also said, the only child can take on the characteristics of even a first child, because the child is an only child. So depending on the way the parents also nurture this only child, the only child could take up the characteristics of being highly responsible, because he's an only child, and probably the grooming given by the parents made that child to be highly responsible. The only child can also be risk averse and laid back. The laid back characteristics of a last born child, and then the can be risk averse, doesn't want to do anything that is risky, take life easy and all that. Those are some of the characteristics of an only child. An only child can also be clingy, especially when they now go into relationship with their significant other. So when you see an only child with the husband or with the wife, if the husband is an only child, they are clingy, they want your attention all the time, they don't want you to give attention to somebody else, only to them. That is because they were an only child, and they are just expressing that desire to be needed, that desire to crave that connection with another person. On the flip side, an only child can also be withdrawn, afraid of connection, thinking, I've been alone all my life. Maybe this person will slip away. Maybe this person will leave me and go. And I've been alone all my life, so maybe I'll continue to be alone by myself. So these are characteristics of being an only child. And like I said, this child can have the characteristics of a first child, especially when this child is when you are also the only gender. You may have these characteristics like that of the last child. Even if you are a first child and you are the only gender, some of these characteristics might even show up even in your life. So we have looked at all these birth orders, even in our lives as individuals. In what order do you fall in your life, in your family? Are you the first child? You are independent. You have leadership skills. You are highly responsible. You can be controlling. You crave approval, positive approval and attention, and you care for others as a first child. And this is the burden a first child usually carry. And when they carry it into their relationships, they discover that a lot of times they are taking care of their partner. They are in charge. They care for the partner. Sometimes even not getting as much back from that partner. But today, if you know where you fall as a first child, you see your characteristics. As a middle-born child, you see your diplomatic characters and your peacemaking characteristic and the compromises you are making in your life for your significant other. You see? And then as an only child or a last-born child, you see all these characteristics. You've got to become aware of them in your life, first in your life. Oh, I'm a first child. These are the characteristics in my life. All right, in what way is it impacting my relationship negatively? Until you are able to see your position in your family and the way it is impacting your relationship negatively, you may continue to sabotage your relationship. For example, if you're a first child and you're female and you're married to a middle-born child who is male, you are likely to continue wanting to serve that middle-born child, sometimes to your detriment. Or you are married to a last-born child who expects to be served, to be taken care of. And you know that when you keep on being the only one that is serving the other in a partner, that relationship will not be a successful one. It will not be a flourishing one. So this knowledge today is for us to be aware of who we are, the position we came from in our family of birth, and the impact it is having on our relationship. It's not just for us to be aware. This awareness is supposed to bring us to a place where we think, okay, this is me. In what way is it impacting my relationship? Is it positive? Is it negative? What can I do today to change the trajectory of things for the positive in this relationship? And this is very important. Think of it. Reflect on this as I round up today. How has your birth order influenced you, first of all? It's not enough to say, oh, my husband is the last born, so he's behaving like that, blah, blah, blah. And me, I'm a middle born child. He always wants me to serve him. When you know your own position, he will also know his own position. Both of you will now come together and see the demerits of the way you behave, the characteristics of your position in your family, and then you begin to align it. The birth order factor is one of the factors that affect alignment in our relationships. So when there's conflict, which is natural in our relationships, we can trace it sometimes to the birth order factor. So if you look at your relationship, maybe there have been clashes, there have been conflict with your significant other. If you look at it in the light of the birth order factor, it's possible you begin to see, oh, this is why we're having this conflict. And so that is a pointer to you that it is time to worship. So this is just one of the factors that affect your mindset, that affects your life, that affects your relationship. And the effect of this on your relationship, it is important that you are deliberate at making things right. You are deliberate at learning the things that will bring peace, that will bring love, that will bring joy and togetherness into your marriage. And then you will remove the things, do away with the things in your life that does not impact your relationship negatively. So I want to say a very big thank you all for joining me on this live cast today. And I hope that you have learned one or two things about the impact of your own birth order on your relationship, on your marriage, on your life, even your life. So if you have learned one or two things, you have to work. What we have learned, you have to work, put it to play. Look at the things that you have to do without. Look at the things that you have to take out of your life so that you will have a more flourishing relationship going forward. So that your birth order will not be impacting your relationship negatively. So thank you very much for attending to this live session with me. I hope another time that I come your way, you'll be ready to learn one or two things. Okay, bye for now.